Students, in the last class we were talking about 2 degree of freedom system, okay, in which we considered initially to start with two masses m1 and m2 and three springs k1, k2 and k3, okay, and we derived a set of equations for that, and we assumed that if x1 and x2 are to be harmonic, then we end up with this kind of condition. Further, we also assume that x1 and x2 both are harmonic and they are in phase. So whatever is the displacement of mass number 1, mass number 2 has got in phase displacement with mass number 1, and then if this has to happen, then what is happening is that we ended up with this condition. Okay, so this was the condition which was in terms of we have discussed about it. This is called as an eigenvalue problem. This omega square is unknown, okay, which is the circular frequency. So you have one matrix which is K matrix minus omega square M matrix, okay, multiplied to this is a vector which is x1 x2 vector, and everything has to be equal to 0. Okay, so a matrix times x1 x2 is equal to a 0 vector. Okay, now if this has to happen, obviously there is one case where x1 and x2 are both zeros. Okay, so in that case obviously you are going to get a solution of this. You are able to satisfy this equation. However, if you are interested in knowing that solution, which is not trivial one, where x1 and x2 are both are not 0, in order that to happen, what should happen is that determinant of this particular matrix should be equal to 0. That's what is written over here. The determinant of this k minus omega square m should be equal to 0. We further assume k1, k2 and k3 to be identical and equal to k, and we also assumed that m1 is equal to m2, and we said that is equal to m. Now with that we ended up with this condition, that determinant of this matrix, which is 2k minus omega square m minus k 2k minus omega square m, that determinant should be equal to 0, which gave us this this particular equation, okay, which is a characteristic equation. This equation has got omega square as unknown, and it is second order or polynomial equation with degree 2, in which omega square is unknown. So you can obviously solve this, and we are solving it now. So let me rewrite that equation once again for you. Okay, I'll write down this equation over here, which is omega square m square minus 4km omega square 4km omega square plus 3k square equal to 0. 3k square equal to 0. I will divide by omega square to everything, and then I'll end up with this omega raised to 4 minus k 4k by m omega square plus 3k square by m square equal to 0. Further, I need not actually solve it. You will be able to appreciate that it has got two roots. One is k by m, and the other root is 3k by m, right? So you have obtained two values of omega square, one of which is k by m and the other one is 3k by m. Okay, I'll be calling this as omega n1, which is square root of k by m, okay, square root of this value, and this I'll be calling as omega n2, which is square root of 3k by m. Okay, so we have obtained two circular frequencies. If only circular frequencies are one of these two, then only you will be able to get harmonic solution. Okay, in single degree of freedom system, what we have done is we started with the assumption that x, which was the unknown displacement, that was harmonic in nature. Okay, with this harmonicity, if this has to be the solution of x, then what should be omega? Okay, we ended up with one frequency, okay, one single frequency, which we called as natural frequency. However, in this case, when we have 2 degree of freedom system with us, okay, we again started with approximation that both displacements x1 and x2 are harmonic, and they are synchronous. So for synchronous harmonic motion of x1 and x2, or two masses, we ended up with two frequencies. Okay, so similar to one frequency in this single degree of freedom system, we are now getting two frequencies over here, which are called as two circular natural frequencies, which are fundamental frequencies or natural frequencies of this system. Okay, now let's try to see what happens to x1 and x2. Okay, for each one of these two omegas. Okay, so let me go to the next page. Okay, and let me try to derive what happens to x1 and x2. Okay, so okay, what I'll do is I'll once again see to this. Yeah, this is what is the equation. Okay, so which was 2k minus omega square m, it was small m, minus k 2k minus omega square m multiplied by x1 x2 equal to 0 0. Okay, this was the equation that we were solving, and in order to get non-trivial x1 and x2, we have obtained that omega square should take one of two values, so which are one of which is k by m and the other one is 3k by m. Okay, let me try to pick this value first. Okay, the first value, which is k by m, and let me try to put it over here. So if I put it over here, what I'll get is, okay, actually if you see over here, you are getting two equations, but both those equations are not independent. Okay, the same equation is repeating over here. Okay, since determinant of this matrix is 0, so obviously rank is lesser than 1, lesser than 2, that is what is the order of this. So obviously you are not getting two different equations, but the same equation, okay, repeated again. So what is that equation? Let me write down that, which is 2k minus omega square m x1 equal to it's k times x2. Okay, and in this equation, let me put value of omega square as k by m. Okay, if I put this value of omega square in this equation, then I end up with this one, 2k minus k by m into x1 is equal to k x2. M and m will go away. Okay, you have 2k minus k, which essentially means that what you are getting is k x1 is equal to k x2, which essentially tells you that x1 is equal to x2. Okay, so what is this? Okay, this equation is trying to tell you that when there is synchronous motion of mass number 1 and mass number 2, then at that time what is happening is that both these masses are oscillating with circular frequency, which is equal to k square root of k by m, and this equation is trying to tell us that their amplitudes are identical. We already have assumed that they have in phase motion, that there is synchronous motion, and further to that, this particular equation is telling us that their amplitudes are identical. So let's say that at certain instance mass 1 is over here at its mean position, and mass number 2 will then obviously be at the mean position, as the motion is assumed to be synchronous. Now as mass number 1 will try to move towards right hand side, mass number 2 will also go to right hand side, and what is the extremity of mass 1, that is how far mass number 1 will go from its mean position, that will be same as that for mass number 2, and both of them will come over here at the extreme position again at the same time. Okay, so that means that they are carrying out in sync motion, synchronous motion. They are always in sync with each other. Okay, x1 and x2 is identical. Their circular frequency of oscillation is square root of k by m, and their amplitudes are also identical. Okay, so this is what we have obtained when we considered first omega square value, okay, which was k by m. However, we have obtained one more omega square value, okay. So we have obtained one more natural frequency. Unlike our single degree of freedom system where we had only one single natural frequency, here we have two natural frequencies as we have 2 degrees of freedom with us, okay. So let's try to see what happens with the second natural frequency that we have obtained, okay. So omega n2 is equal to 3k by m, okay. Now let me put this value of omega n2 in the equation that we have obtained, which was 2k minus omega square m x1 equal to k x2, okay. So in this equation, let me put the value of omega square as this omega as this 3k by m, which is the value of omega n2, okay. So what I'll get is 2k minus 3k by m into m, everything multiplied by x1 is equal to k x2. This and this goes away and you have 2k over here and you have minus 3k over here. So you are left with minus k capital X1 is equal to k capital X2, which essentially tells you that x1 is equal to minus x2, okay. So this is a slightly different synchronous motion than what we have assumed in the beginning, or what we have obtained in the first case, okay. So this is, let's say, mass number 1 over here, and this is mass number 2 over here, okay. So when mass number 1 will start moving towards right hand side, mass number 2 will start its journey in the opposite side, that is in the direction, in this direction, which is towards the left hand side, okay, negative direction of x, okay. And again, amplitudes, that is how far they are going from their mean positions, those are identical, okay. So whatever is amplitude of mass number 1, same will be the amplitude of mass number 2, but in the opposite direction, because you have this minus sign coming over here. You have minus sign coming over here because you are assuming that both masses are carrying out motion, which is like this, omega n1t plus or rather we have assumed it to be minus pi. This is omega n2, I'm so sorry, omega n2t pi 2, and you have assumed same thing over here, right, omega n2t minus phi 2. Okay, so when you are assuming that this is synchronous, then you are getting x2 as minus 1 times x1, okay. Or in the other words, what you can say is you can absorb that minus sign which is coming over here in this one, okay, by adding minus pi or plus pi over here, okay, which essentially means that it's the direction is flipped. So you have flipped direction of motion of mass number 2. Okay, so when mass number 1 is going towards its right extremity, mass number 2 is going towards its left extremity. However, both those extremities are at the identical distance from their individual mean positions. Okay, so so what all we have obtained so far? Okay, so we started with the approximation that the motion is synchronous and harmonic. If this has to happen, we obtained two frequencies, circular frequencies, which we said are two natural frequencies, and for each one of those two natural frequencies we have also obtained what are the ratios of their amplitudes. So when we have this, we'll be able to construct a generic expression for x1 and x2, okay, for any initial conditions, okay, which will not always be harmonic in nature, okay. So not always x1 and x2 will be harmonic, they will be harmonic only in certain conditions, okay. So if the so how can you generate that? You will be able to generate it by superposing those two solutions that you have obtained, okay. So what is it that you have obtained? You know, in the first case, okay, so which was the first case, you said that whatever is the amplitude of, let me say that amplitude of mass number 1 is capital X, okay, and omega cos of omega n1, I am writing it minus phi, okay. So what will be the amplitude of x2? It will be again x cos of omega n2 t minus phi, right? This is case number 1. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll take this x out common, okay, and I'll name it as c. Okay, I'll take this cosine omega n1 t minus phi also common and out, and I'll write it over here. And I'll write 1 and 1 over here, okay, which I'll be calling as mode shape. Okay, I call this as mode shape, okay, which tells me relationship between amplitudes of two masses. Okay, however, that is not giving me displacements. Okay, so if you need to know displacements, you need to consider this c. Okay, so we have since one more thing coming into picture, so I'll give it a subscript which I'll be calling as c1. Okay, and now I'll also be superposing the other solution that I have obtained, okay, which is this one. It will now be c2 1 minus 1. This is the other mode shape. Okay, that is telling me whatever is the amplitude of mass number 1, okay, you are going to get the same amplitude, but in the reverse direction motion will be. That's why we have minus 2 sitting over here, multiplied by cosine of omega n2 t minus phi 2. Okay, so this is the total final solution that you have obtained. Okay, for any initial conditions. Okay, so let's say if you pick initial conditions in a such a way that x1 and x2 are both identical, okay, and let's say are equal to 2 and 2, and you don't give any initial velocities, okay, to start with. Okay, in that case you will be able to see that you end up with only this solution, this part of the solution, and this doesn't exist at all. Okay, so which essentially means that you are going to get this first mode solution only. Okay, this is called as a first mode, okay, where frequency of vibration is omega n1. Here this frequency is different. Okay, for this part, this solution part, okay, this is vibrating with a different circular frequency, which is omega n2. This is vibrating with omega n1. Okay, so both these masses are vibrating with omega n1, whereas both these masses in this case are vibrating with omega n2. Okay, and this is the ratio of their amplitudes, which is 1 minus 1. Okay, and here you have 1 1. Okay, it tells you only relationship between amplitudes. Okay, in order to know the total displacement, you need to have the c1. Okay, so this is the final scene that we have obtained. Okay, so now you can input your initial conditions to find out all unknowns. So what are all unknowns which are there in this one? Okay, so you already are aware of omega n1, which you have obtained to be equal to k by square root of k by m. You are aware of what is omega n2, which is square root of 3k by m. Okay, t you are going to input, and t is an independent variable. Okay, so that is not unknown. You are going to input its value. Okay, so what are unknowns? So this phi1 is unknown, phi2 is unknown, c1 is unknown, and c2 is unknown. So you have 4 unknowns over here, which is this c1, c2, phi1, phi2. Okay, so 4 unknowns, and you have 4 initial conditions obviously, which are 2 displacements and 2 velocities, which are going to prescribe. Okay, so let me try to write down those initial conditions, and let me try to see that how exactly you are going to get the solution. Okay, so what are initial conditions? We know that x1, x2, okay, this vector at time t equal to 0 takes these values. Okay, x1 0, x2 0. Okay, these are the values in that vector. Okay, whereas velocity vector of these two variables, velocities of these two variables at time t equal to 0, okay, you know the velocity that you are going to input to mass number 1 and mass number 2 which is x1 dot x dot 1 0, and this is x dot 2 0. Okay, so what are we going to do is we are going to evaluate the expression that we have written over here, okay, for time t equal to 0. Okay, so if I evaluate it for time t equal to 0, then what I get is, okay, so obviously the left hand side will be equal to x1 0, x2 0, which is this variable. That should be equal to, let me evaluate this at time t equal to 0. So if I put time t equal to 0 in this one, so what I get is c1 1 1 cosine of minus phi 1 plus c2 1 minus 1 cosine of minus phi 2 is what is the right hand side. Okay, so this is, let me simplify it further, and we get this one, c1 cosine phi 1 plus c2 cosine phi 2, c1 cosine phi 1 minus c2 cosine phi 2. Let me say that this is set of equation number 1. This set, I'll be naming this set of equations, I'll be calling it as 1. Okay, however, I also have these conditions which are on the velocity, so I will have to differentiate this set of equations with time. Now if I differentiate it with respect to time, then what I get is, so let me write down that I'll get velocities over here. c1 is independent of time. This is 1 1 vector, which is a mode shape vector, which is independent of time. Always that mode shape is going to remain as is. Okay, then you have time vector coming over here, okay, which you are going to have minus sign appearing over here, minus omega n1 sine of omega n1 t minus phi 1 plus c2 1 minus 1 minus omega n2 sine of omega n2 t minus phi 2. Right? So this is the velocity expression that you have obtained. Okay. So what you will be doing in this, you will be putting value of t as 0 in this velocity expression. Then left hand side will be equal to this vector. Okay. So you get x dot 1 0, x dot 2 0, that is equal to c1 1 1, and you have minus omega n1 sine of minus phi 1 plus c2 1 minus 1 into minus omega n2 sine of minus phi 2. You know, sine of minus phi 1 is minus sine phi 1, and you have one more minus sign sitting over here, so you can absorb that and you can write it in this way. It is c1 1 1 omega n1 sine of phi 1, and it is c2 into this mode shape, which is 1 minus 1, and it is omega n2 sine of phi 2. Okay, so this is what is the velocity vector that you have obtained. You can further write it in this way. Omega n1 c1 sine phi 1 plus omega n2 c2 sine phi 2, omega n1 c1 sine phi 1 minus omega n2 C2 sine phi 2. This is again a set that I'll be naming as equation number 2. So you have obtained 4 equations. 2 are there in this one, okay, which are having C1, phi 1, C2, phi 2 as unknowns, and 2 more equations are over here, in which again C1, phi 1, C2, phi 2 are unknowns. So you have 4 unknowns and 4 equations, and in our problem solving session I am going to show you how exactly we can obtain these values. We'll be solving one example problem in that session, at least one example problem. We'll be having more than one obviously. So we'll be solving over there and we'll be trying to see how we can obtain these values of C1 and phi 1. Okay, so at that time, in that session, we are going to have a relook at the solution of this one. Okay, so this is the story of free vibration of single 2 degree of freedom system, a brief story I can say. Okay, so let's have a real look of what we have done so far. Okay, so what we started is we initially considered an equivalent single 2 degree of freedom system, okay, which was this 2 masses. So let me go back to that page. Yes, so so this was, yeah, this was the equivalent system where we considered mass number 1 over here and mass number 2. It's pretty weird to find it out in this setting now, okay, but anyways, so this is an equivalent 2 degree of freedom system. We already have talked about it. It can represent any physical system, okay, and in actual practice you may not see such masses and springs sitting far away from each other. Rather, they will not be different. You will be able to see that spring effect and that inertia effect, they are together in that mechanical component, and you are representing stiffness of that component by a spring element, and its inertial properties you are taking out and assigning those inertial properties to the mass. So that's why that is mass element. So in the same fashion as we have considered in the single degree of freedom system, this is also an equivalent 2 degree of freedom system. So we derived differential equation of that 2 degree of freedom system. We have seen that we obtained 2 differential equations. Okay, both of them were second order differential equations, which were ordinary differential equations, and they were coupled. Okay, so coupling term came from here. Okay, we have arranged our system in such a way that coupling exists only in stiffness matrix. However, for other choice of x1 and x2, you may get coupling in inertia matrix as well, that we already have seen, but we generally prefer doing it in this fashion, okay, because it gives us ease of solution, which you will be able to appreciate at some point of time. So this is the reason why we go for stiffness coupling. Okay, so when you have stiffness coupling, this is the set of equations, how they look like. Okay, now in this x1 and x2 were unknown. Now those unknowns, we assumed that let those unknowns, obviously this tells us, this particular plate is telling us that obviously we were having these initial conditions specified along with these differential equations. Okay, so now this now further we assume that both x1 and x2 are harmonic and synchronous. So we assume this form of x1 and x2. Okay, so we considered only amplitudes to be different. Okay, otherwise their time dependence is exactly identical, okay, and harmonic in nature, okay, and harmonic with omega as circular frequency. Now if this has to happen, then we ended up with certain condition on omega and x1 and x2, and whatever problem that we ended up with, that is called as an eigenvalue problem. Okay, it gives you a set of omegas, okay, and corresponding set of x1 and x2. Okay, we also have seen what does the meaning of that eigenvalue problem. This is the graphical representation of that. We have seen that what exactly it represents. So pre-multiplication by k to x1 and x2, that is the displacement vector, takes you to another vector. What it does is it is scaling the vector, and it is also rotating. And similarly, pre-multiplying by inertia, that mass matrix also takes you to another vector. Okay, and when you multiply further to that by omega square, so this is what, this is scaling. Okay, omega square is a scaling, but pre-multiplying by m rotates this vector, okay, and scales it. Okay, but then for certain choice of omega square and x1 and x2, what happens is that k into x1 and x2 and m into x1 and x2, they get aligned, and their scaling is such that this is that scaling factor, which is omega square. Okay, so that is what is the meaning of this eigenvalue problem, which we already have seen in our previous class. Okay, and this is that statement of eigenvalue problem. Okay, and now in order to have non-trivial eigenvectors, which are x1 and x2, these are called as eigenvectors, and these are eigenvalues, which are omega squares. Values of omega squares will be called as eigenvalues. Okay, and values of x1 and x2, they are called as eigenvectors. So if you want to have non-zero eigenvectors, that is non-trivial eigenvectors, then obviously determinant of this matrix, which is getting pre-multiplied by, or which is rather pre-multiplying this eigenvector matrix, okay, that determinant of that matrix should be equal to 0. So when we enforce this condition, then we ended up with two values of omega square. So we got two eigenvalues, in other words. So these are the two eigenvalues which we have obtained. Okay, one of which is square root of k by m, and the other one is square root of 3k by m. And for each one of these eigenvalues, we determined what are eigenvectors. Okay, so for first eigenvalue, which was square root of k by m, this is the eigenvector which we obtained, which says that x1 is equal to x2, which essentially means that amplitudes of both masses are identical and both masses are moving in the same direction. Okay, so eigenvector is never unique. Okay, it is only telling you that x1 is equal to x2, but x1 can be 2, then x2 will be equal to 2, x1 can be minus 1, then x2 will be minus 1. So it depends on what is the value that you pick over here for x1, accordingly value of x2 will be determined. But there is no any unique x1 and x2 which we obtain from here, but it is only their ratio or their relationship with each other is something that we are getting from this eigenvector. Okay, then the second eigenvector we obtained, which was corresponding to the second eigenvalue, which was square root of 3k by m, and that eigenvector was 1 minus 1. So which essentially means that if x1 is 1, x2 will be equal to minus 1. But if you pick x1 to be equal to minus 1, then x2 will be equal to 1. So either you can say that 1 minus 1 is eigenvector, or minus 1 1 is eigenvector. Typically we pick 1 minus 1. Okay, so we assume generally the first one to be 1. Okay, this is how we go with. Okay, but you can always choose something else. Okay, but there is one another choice which we'll be seeing in the next class. Okay, how to pick which eigenvector to pick, that we are going to see in the next class. Okay, now yes, so we have obtained two eigenvalues corresponding to eigenvectors, and with those eigenvalues and eigenvectors, now we are able to construct a generic solution. Okay, for any initial conditions, what should be x1 and x2. Okay, so that is something that we are able to construct now, and this is that sorry, not this one. Okay, but yeah, this is that expression, okay, which is telling you what is x1 and x2, that is displacement, generic displacement vector. That generic displacement vector is what? It is weighted combination of two eigenvectors multiplied by corresponding time functions. Okay, so the first eigenvector, which is 1 minus 1, okay, it has got corresponding time dependence, which is, let me highlight this with red. Okay, so this is the first eigenvector. Okay, this first eigenvector has got corresponding time dependence, fixed time dependence, which is this one. Okay, this eigenvector will always be vibrating harmonically, okay, with this particular circular frequency. Okay, whereas this is second this eigenvector which has got corresponding time dependence, which is again harmonic because we have picked it to be harmonic, and this is the circular frequency of which is equal to omega n2. Okay, so first eigenvector times its time dependent solution or time dependent function, and second eigenvector and multiplied by its time dependence. What you are doing is you are weighting them. Okay, C1 and C2 are their weights. Okay, weight of first eigenvector times that function, and this is weight of that second eigenvector times its time dependence. Okay, if you do this superposition, then you get the generic displacement vector, which is x1 and x2. So what you have to do is you have to pick you have to use this particular expression, and in that expression you have to input these initial conditions which you already have prescribed, which are these initial conditions. So these initial conditions, if you insert into this, then you are going to get 4 equations with 4 unknowns. These are 2 equations which are in terms of initial displacements, and these are other 2 conditions which are in terms of initial velocities. And all these four conditions or 4 equations which you have written over here are having 4 unknowns. Okay, so which are C1, C2, phi1, phi2. Okay, so for these 4 unknowns C1, C2, phi1, phi2, you are going to solve this set, okay, which I have written over here in equation number 1 and equation number 2. Okay, so we'll stop over here for today, and what we are going to do is we are going to solve an example in our exam solving session, problem solving session, which will be will be conducting it this Thursday, I guess. Thursday we'll be conducting it, and at that time we'll be having a relook at this, and we are going to have a further look at whatever that we have discussed so far in the next class. Okay, so we stop over here for today. Thank you so much. Bye.